Hello, I'm Mandana and I'm here on my show called Let's Talk About It. And it's my pleasure to have here a very deep soul, a very guarded, very grounded, very beautiful soul called Gabriela. So we'd like to welcome her on the show. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Mandana, for having me. It's such a pleasure to have met you and such a great coincidence.
Thank you so much for being here for the show.
Thank you.
Tell me more about who you are and how are you in Pakistan?
All right. So, my name is Gabriela, and I have been here in Pakistan for 6 plus years now. And it really starts with a love story. I fell in love with my husband on a whim years ago, and that led for us to get married. And I am a native of El Salvador. I'm Salvadoran Latin American. I was born in the States, but I was raised in El Salvador, which is where my family is from. And I did my education. I have a bachelor's degree from Amherst College in psychology, and I have a master's degree in spirituality, mind body practices, and psychotherapy from Columbia University.
Wow.
And I've traveled extensively before marriage through Southeast Asia and through the world, really learning about different cultures, understanding, and just broadening my perspective of the world because it's been one of my passions to really bridge cultures together because I think sometimes there is so much animosity between people and cultures, and it's really just a matter of finding the same language to understand each other. Right.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah.
It's like a handful of words. Like when you say mind and body therapist, it goes like, gets complicated. And it's like, but of course, beautifully. But I've very rarely seen a person who is mind body psychologist or a
Right.
therapist.
Right.
So,
Right.
could you explain more about what does that mean? Like, how would you in what way would you have these practices with your clients?
Yeah, of course. So this actually was fueled by my personal transformation and my personal experience. I was in therapy many years ago for a very long time, and I found that although therapy is one of the most transformative practices and endeavors that I have ever taken, there was a point where I could not rationalize my experience anymore, right? And it was all about really feeling my feelings and being inside my body. So when I was in college at Amherst, I happened to stumble upon this was in 2006. So if you do the math, this was about 19 years ago, almost 20 years ago. I stumbled into a class, a movement class, and this particular class happened to be a yoga class. And it was the first time in a very long time where I was quietly in my body, present with all my emotions and with anything and everything that was happening. And the reason why I say that this was very pivotal is because I find that even though exercise, when we go to the gym, for instance, or when we go for a run, we're usually full of stimuli. We're listening to music, we're having to-do lists in our head, right? But for me, it was all about grounding and being in my body that provided a framework for transformation. And when I coupled therapy with the practice of movement, whether it was yoga or gentle movement or a somatic practice in any way, shape, or form that brought quiet and stillness, that's where everything began to come together. And so, along with my formal education, I also embarked on a journey on becoming a yoga teacher, a breathwork teacher, and a mindfulness teacher as well. But before I was any of those things, my passion and my calling is really to be a student. I enjoy learning. I enjoy, and I feel like there's no such thing as finishing, that learning. It's a journey that has no end.
No,
right?
yes, I can actually relate with you so much. Like I can understand what this journey has been going on for a while. For me, I feel also like I'm so connected with my body and mind that it really integrates. That connection is so important and so vital. And I think having that connection, being in this time and staying in the present moment.
Right.
I think it's all about uh, discovering that side of you.
Right.
Okay, how we cannot be stuck in the past and how we cannot be stuck in the future.
Right.
But be in this moment. And I think with these two integrations, it's how you get there.
Yes. And I think sorry to cut you, but I think what's fascinating about this is that, you know, if you see the triad of the work that we do in mind body therapy, there is the body, which contains us. There is the mind, which rationalizes and makes sense of our daily experience. And then there's this one thing that is many times undervalued and overlooked, which is the breath. The breath is the one and only thing in our life that carries us from birth to death, and is the only thing that happens and can only happen right here in the now.
Yeah.
So when you connect to your breath, there is nowhere else that you can be. Right?
Beautiful. Yes. What very well said. Can you explain how trauma is stored in the body and released through your work? Like, let's talk about that side of the body.
Yeah. So so let's see. Let's right define trauma, because a lot of the times we think of trauma as something that is rarely occasionally lived, something that is huge, extremely traumatic, whether an accident or a traumatic death or something that happened. But the truth of the matter is that trauma is anything and everything that has happened throughout our lives that has had a great impact and shaped who we are.
So makes your self worth like it does it when you say it defines who we are, then it basically starts from your childhood, and it can start from any stage of your life.
It can start, you know, we can experience trauma from childhood, whether you were bullied in school, or it can be something later on with trouble with your partnership, or, you know, for some women, motherhood can be a very traumatic experience, becoming a mother. There are so many things that can be traumatic, right? So and it's something that's very personal. I can never define what is traumatic to you.
Yes.
It is only you who will come to tell me, you know, Gabby, this was very, very difficult, and it's something that I'm really struggling with. That's trauma. Now, we often think that trauma is stored in our mind and in our head, but in reality, when we have very difficult experiences in life, our mind's job is to keep us alive. And a lot of the times what we do is we repress that memory, we repress that period of time, we try to forget it. Why? Because the mind wants to preserve us. The mind wants to keep us alive. And so where do we find that? Where do we live that experience? It's in the body. So there's a very I don't know if it's a common saying, but it's and I think it is, but it's something that I really like to use, which is the issues are in our tissues. Wow. When we begin to embody our experience, when we begin to tap into our body, we realize that there's a lot of uncomfortable emotions, stored emotions that we begin to tap into. And it's, you know, nothing complicated, but as to say that our body remembers. Yes. Our body knows, and we rarely take care of it. We rarely tap into the wealth, and forgive the pun, but the body of knowledge that our tissues hold. Right? So when we come into the practice and we arrive at a space where we can find stillness within our body, within our breath, within our mind, we can begin to unravel, we begin to unfold all of these emotions, all of these memories that are often tied to the past.
So, what are the simple practices that one can do to deal with and connect with your own body? How do we connect to our body?
Well, I think there's very many simple rituals that you can have, and simple practices that you could have, such as waking up in the morning and before doing anything, reaching for the phone or getting out of bed, just stretching your body in the morning, tapping into your body, right? When you are taking a shower, or getting ready for work, or getting ready for the day, maybe just pause, sit down, take a few breaths. you can do this as well. And I mentioned this because earlier I mentioned that often when we exercise, we are in our heads. But what if we were to bring mindfulness, which is the key word here? When we are mindful of what we do, when we bring awareness into what we do, then every single one of our experiences becomes transformative, right? Because we are fully here. The problem is that many times we live mindlessly inside our heads, anxious about what the future holds, and depressed or sad about what has happened in the past. So we're grabbing a branch right here, we're grabbing a branch, another here. But the real possibilities are held right in front of us. Right? So all we need to do, and it sounds very simple, but it's really not, is to hone that awareness, right? Because it's that which connects our brain. It's that which connects the circuitry in our brain so that we can awaken to the possibilities life holds for us.
So yeah, as you said, that it sounds very easy and it sounds very simple, but it takes a lot of work. It is practice. It is a lot of dedication. It's a lot of awareness that you need to have to get there, or to be actually able to practice that.
Yes.
It's the consistency that
Yeah.
it demands.
It's creating a habit.
Yeah, it's creating
a habit, and a habit is a muscle.
It's a
We
muscle.
will never create a habit if we don't work that muscle. And if we start using it, we lose that habit, right? Awareness, mindfulness, presence is a habit.
Yes, yes, yes. So how does your work, is different from the talk therapy?
Right, right. I think that's a really important description. My work is different from talk therapy because we talk of the things that are relevant to us in that moment. We go deep into our past, into our present, into our future. But we actually are not sitting in chairs. We're actually usually on the floor with pillows, and we are feeling into our body as we move through the session. So a common session with me would look like something as a check-in to see how we're doing, where we're coming from after our first session, which is more of an intake. And then we move onto the floor to be able to move within our bodies and allow ourselves to feel. Because the practice is to allow ourselves to tap into our bodies to see how we're feeling. And we connect with our bodies through breath, through movement, to come to this full awareness of what's really happening here.
Yeah.
What's actually happening. And, let's break free of these limiting beliefs. And this is where the mindset shift happens. We begin to shift our limiting beliefs into presence, into awareness, becoming people who are more awakened. And when we are more present, we are better humans. We are better mothers. We are better teachers. We are just better at what we do.
Yeah.
Because we present ourselves with authenticity.
Yes, beautiful. Okay, so let's go into a little direction of uh, how can we explain healing? Like, there's a lot of buzz around this word and trauma and healing, and I feel like a trending thing that people are trying to understand. I feel like, and there's an awareness building to it. So, how would you explain in a simple way, in a layman way, that they can understand? They don't think it's too bigger work or too much to do.
Right.
So what would that be? Like, how would you say you can do healing? It will take some work, of course. But what would that work mean?
Right. So I think healing is anything and everything, whether an experience, an encounter, a practice that brings meaning into our life. Healing is, in my opinion and in my view, inextricably related with meaning making, right? So healing can look like so many things. It can look like going to therapy. It can look like exercising. It can look like changing the way that we eat. It can look like doing some sort of movement. There are so many practices, especially coming from ancient wisdom, right? And what modern research tells us is that the one thing all of these practices have in common is that it allows us to make meaning of whatever we are going through. So to me, when you ask me about healing, what healing is, it's really about being able to be with what we are and who we are without being judged. And that is why the space between a therapist and his or her client, or a teacher and his or her student, is of pivotal importance. The way that I view you, this interpersonal space that we have between you and me, is what's going to fuel that transformation.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yes. So, how did you come, Gabriela, to this?
How did I come into this? So, I think I mentioned this in the beginning. I have been a student of the world, and I have this unquenchable thirst to learn and know. And again, bridge cultures and bridge languages and understand concepts that have seemingly nothing to do with each other, but that have so much in common. And I started with my journey of going to therapy when I was very young. I was an adolescent having all sorts of adolescence issues. And when I found that I had, in my late adolescence, early 20s, come to a standstill in my path of therapy, and I stumbled upon this yoga class in particular.
Yeah, you mentioned.
That really fueled me into this deep transformation of work. And when I decided to formalize, what I wanted to be, there's a lot of lawyers in my family, and I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. And I had this. This is how I tell the story. But I had this existential crisis after graduating from Amherst, and I embarked on this cliche but wonderful eat, pray, love journey in which I traveled through Southeast Asia, and it was a very personal journey in which I ended up becoming a yoga teacher. And it was not because I wanted to teach. I've never once done the things that I do because I want to teach something, or because I've done them because I truly believe that that's my mission and that's my calling. Yeah. And so when I stumbled on this phenomenal program pioneered by Dr. Lisa Miller at Columbia University, it was the first Ivy League program that really intertwined ancient wisdom with modern scientific research. And when I found that component, I said, that's it. That's it. This is going to give me the vocabulary that I need for the things that I want to teach.
Wow. Okay, so who do you think mind body therapy would be beneficial for?
I think that as a human experience, I think it's beneficial for absolutely everyone, whether it's children, even toddlers, actually, trying to manage their feelings, mothers, businessmen, businesswomen, people who are in the giving profession, social workers, therapists, mothers, anyone who works with and for other people, right? Because when we understand ourselves, when we are compassionate with ourselves, we can extend that to other people. We can only give to other people what we have within us. But how do we know or create awareness of what we are putting into the world if we don't know what's in our cup, right?
Okay, so here is what is making me very curious, that there is a certain you saying that we have to these are the people who can benefit from it,
Right.
but how do I identify, how would I tell my son would be able to sit with a stranger who's a young child and will be able to have his heart feelings and be able to talk about it
Right.
with someone who's just he's just met, and the situation is so formal, and so how does it take a lot of time for that child to open up, or do you think that therapist has that built-in skill? Because when you say a toddler, so toddlers are, of course, they're very playful and all that, but are, are you able to, and how do I know that my toddler needs it?
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I would make a distinction. I would say for an adult, my question to you would be, are you calmed to this? Is this something that's resonating with you? Is this something that you're interested in any way, shape, or form? And if there is any sort of resistance coming to you about it, about a mind body practice or a mind body therapy, just ask yourself, what is it about it? What is it about it that I'm resisting? Is it that it's something different? Is it that it's something that I've never done? Am I afraid or fearful, which is very valid, of sharing my most deep, intimate emotions or feelings?
Yeah, my
Right.
vulnerability.
My vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Because in the end, as a human experience, we need to be vulnerable in order to find what there is within us and to be able to evolve and transform. Now, in the case of children or adolescents, I think that as mothers or caretakers, we end up making decisions for them. Yet I think that the most determining factor would be, how does this child, how does this adolescent feel with this therapist? Because in the end, as I mentioned in the beginning of this session with you, of this interview, what's going to determine how successful, right, has many meanings, but however successful the therapy is, really depends between the two people sitting or working with each other. There is nothing more transformative than the interpersonal work between two people that are together. The way that I view you will define this space. What I bring into this space with my beliefs, my emotions will set a tone for this full room. And there's no difference whether I'm working with a toddler, an adolescent, or an adult. The only difference is the modality and the language that I use to reach the different people that I'm working with.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.
It is a pleasure. And I would love that we do things together and journey together. And thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Let's
Thank
talk
you
about
so
it.
much.
We've talked about a lot of things today. We've talked about mind and body and healing and trauma. We just touched them. And I would love, we can maybe have her again. If you have any questions, throw it in your comments and let us know, and we would be getting back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.